Hey, welcome to Go There on Fourth, the podcast about faith, football, and fantasy football. I'm Pastor Jason Barnett, a.k.a. the Dirt Path Pastor, and so excited to jump into Week 10 and discuss football with you. Remember, I am a football expert. I'm just a football junkie. I'm just journeying through this fantasy football season with you, sharing with you my struggles as I go about setting my lineup and making some pointers along the ways, and also making some game picks. So I just want to jump into this week's action, starting with our Thursday, early Sunday games. Well, Thursday Night Football has done it again. They have seemed to gone out and find the two absolute primetime game, and they're going to make us watch it. And even better, they're going to make you pay to watch it because you have to watch it on the Amazon Prime app. But that's the Falcons versus the Panthers. No, I've picked the Falcons to win the NFC South. They're still not a great football team. Again, there's a real thought that they were going to be tanking this season to get a good draft pick. They just keep Falcons and Panthers. That's tonight. Outside of Baker Mayfield and PJ Walker at quarterback, I'm not even sure who's left on the Panthers that I recognize the name for. DJ Morgus is the receiver. Dante Freeman at running back. But again, don't really know who's on the Panthers anymore. Anyway, Falcons versus the Panthers. I'm picking the Falcons in this one. Fighting Genos, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Buccaneers. This is in Munich, Germany, so it's going to be at the 9:30 game. I think it's probably on the ESPN app, I think, or I can't remember. I'm not sure what app it is. Don't quote me on that. But it's going to be you may not know this, but Geno Smith has on the season has a 73% completion percentage rate. He's got over 2,000 yards passing, 15 touchdown passes already through 9 games, and only 4 interceptions. He's going up against a tough Buccaneers defense this week. However, I do think that the Seattle Seahawks have a better offense than the Buccaneers do. You heard me say that right. And again, it's dangerous to pick against Tom Brady, especially when his back is up against the wall. But I'm picking the Genos to get the win in this one in Germany in front of that crowd there. Vikings. Here we go. This is my first upset pick of the week. I am going with the Vikings. Mainly because how serious is Josh Allen's injury? I think he's been – I'm not sure. I think he didn't practice yesterday, or if he did practice, he was limited. I can't remember. But even if he plays, is he the same Josh Allen that we're used to seeing? Is he going to be the same like bulldozer of a running back? I know it's his elbow he hurt, so it's going to impact his throwing a lot. Is he going to be the same player if he plays? And the Vikings are red hot right now. They're on a bit of a winning streak. So I think the Vikings will get this one done on the road in Buffalo. Lions versus the Bears. Up an average of 400 yards per game to opposing offenses. Matter of fact, last week they held the Packers, I think it was to, 13 or 14. And you would look at that and say, well, maybe the Lions defense is turning around, but not so fast because Aaron Rodgers threw 2 interceptions in the red zone. He threw another one just outside the red zone. Look at the Packers' yardage. You'll see that he threw the Packers offense gained 383 yards. So just shy of the 400-yard mark, which is what the Lions typically give up. And I don't think the Packers are a very but now they're going up against the Bears. A Bears team that is surging, a Bears team that has Justin Fields at quarterback that is slowly starting to figure things out. So I am going to go with the Bears in this one. Versus the Titans. Now, if you're looking for a game that's going to have a lot of points in it, this isn't going to be it. This is not going to be the game to watch. This is going to be a defensive struggle. You have Mike Vrabel coaching the Titans and going against the Denver Broncos, who have a fantastic defense. This is going to be a defensive slugfest. That being said, though, I just don't think – I know the Titans have Derrick Henry, and he is a train trapped in a human body. But I think the Broncos get this one done. I think Russell Wilson in this moment, you're going to see why they pay him the big bucks. One of the why you see it. So I think the Broncos are going to get it done against the Titans this time. Jaguars versus the Chiefs. I'm going with the Chiefs in this one. Travis Kelce has 57 catches, 659 yards, and 7 touchdowns already on the season. I think he's going to get even more against the Jaguars. Next game is the one that I'm not confident in my pick in. It's one that I am wrestling with. Is this the right decision to go with here? It's the Browns versus the Dolphins. Yes, on paper and just by gut, I'm picking the Dolphins. About it is the Browns this year have found themselves in positions where they can play the upset person, right? It has the potential to actually knock you off. A couple of weeks ago, we watched them completely dismantle the Bengals. They were in it against the Ravens. So I think this is going to be a closer game than expected. And let's be honest, the Dolphins defense gives us a reason to be concerned. They barely beat the Lions. They had all kinds of trouble slowing down Justin Fields last week. They allowed him to rush for a QB record of 178 yards on the ground. And now they're going up against Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in that. Again, I'm picking the Dolphins, but it's one that I wouldn't be surprised that I get wrong. Next up, Texans versus the Giants. And while I was dogging on Thursday Night Football earlier for this week's matchup, I will say thank you to them, because if it wasn't for the Thursday Night Football, I have the names of the players on the Texans from last week. Okay, I would have known Davis Mills. But I wouldn't have got to watch Dameon Pierce run the football. Dameon Pierce is a beast. He might be the only thing that they have on their offense, but he's fun to watch. With that being said, I'm picking the Giants. The Giants are going to win this one. Daniel Jones has been having a great season under Brian Daboll. The offense around him is finally working, but also Barkley back, one of the top running backs in the league. So Giants get to win here. Saints versus the Steelers. Andy Dalton is 3-13 in his career versus the Steelers. And in those 16 games, Dalton has thrown for 19 touchdown passes, and he's been sacked 37 times in 16 games in his career versus the Steelers. I think he's going to continue to struggle in this one. We saw Andy Dalton in key moments over last week make some poor decisions the team and kind of put him in a bad spot against the Ravens. I think we're going to see that happen again against the Steelers, and Kenny Pickett is going to lead them to another victory. All right, so this is a go there on fourth is a faith football and fantasy football, and part of the faith thing is I'd like to share a devotional with you when I make these episodes, and today I kind of want to talk about something I watched yesterday, and I'm a fan of the Pat McAfee show. I listen to it pretty regularly, and I don't have his permission to share this, so hopefully it's not a big deal. But he shared it publicly on his show, so that's why I feel comfortable sharing with you. But there was a good point in it for all of us, and he was sharing how he and his wife, kids and their struggles and having to do that, which included two attempts where his wife almost lost her life because of and so he kind of had to be there for his wife. He had to encourage her. He had to help build her. Devastated from these two events that have happened, right? And when her whole life's dream and goal is to become a mom, and that's shattered in a moment. I'm sure Pat was hurting himself because, one, you're seeing your wife hurt, and two, you've kind of built this expectation of and excitement up in your life about what's going to happen, this new life that's going to come into your family, and all of a sudden that's just gone. But Pat, in this moment, he stepped up and he was there for his wife. He cared for her. He talked. He did his best to raise her up and to comfort her, and he was there with her each and every step of the way. And to the point now where they were trying to have a baby, but they had to go to do in vitro, and so there was a lot of other things that were. He had to kind of be the person that was the rock for his wife. He had to kind of be the person to do the things to make that happen for his family, with his wife. It was his wife's desire, but it included some things that weren't so pleasant, weren't so good. The reason I'm sharing that with you is in that moment, and I know I'm not exactly sure where Pat stands on his faith, but there's a lesson in it for all of us as guys, and especially those who call ourselves followers of Christ that are husbands, right? And Pat showed us what it means to be a man in the relationship, what it means to be the husband, how to live up to that role. And I want to share with you, Paul writes about this in Ephesians chapter 5. And in Ephesians 5, this is what Paul says. He says, wives, submit to your husbands as the Lord, because the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. He is the Savior of the body. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives just as yourself for her, to make her holy, cleansing her with the washing of water by the word. He did this to present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle, anything like that, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands are to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife, for no one ever hates his own flesh, but provides and cares for it, just as Christ does for the church. And since we are members of this body, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This mystery is profound, but I am talking about Christ and the church. To sum up, each one of you is to love his wife. The wife is to respect her husband. And so for centuries, the way that men have taken this passage, and even women, and applied it, means submit to their husbands, and husbands are to be the place of authority over their wives, dictating everything that happens in their lives. And the wives are to just submit and follow their husband's lead. That's not what Paul's talking about here. That's not what Paul's getting at. What Paul is, for this relationship to work, it takes two people 100% committed to making it work. Not one person 100%, another person 50%. Both people in the relationship 100% committed. And what Paul is essentially saying, he says, wives, submit to your husbands. And then he comes back and he tells the husbands to love your wife. What is love? Remember what Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians about love. In 1 Corinthians, he tells us that love isn't puffed up. It doesn't seek its own way. It keeps no record of wrong. Especially when he says, love doesn't seek its own way. So when Paul is calling these husbands to love their wife, submit to your wife. If you want to love your wife properly, it's going to mean putting her. It's going to call for you submitting who you are to her. Your wife, yes, she's called to submit to you, but you're called to, it's a mutual submission. It's both of you submitting together out of love for one another, to do what is best for each other. And this one life that you have formed by choosing to enter a relationship and a covenant together. And in this moment, Pat, when his wife was broken, defeated, struggling with what's happened, he was there for her. He didn't blame her for what happened. He didn't belittle her for the choices that they had to make to keep her alive in that situation. He was there for her. He comforted her. He loved her. And he helped her get back up. And that's what it means to be a husband in a marriage relationship. It's not about us getting what we want. It's not about us forcing our wife to do what we say and go to the kitchen and make us a sandwich. No. If we are to love our wives as Christ loved the church, we give of ourselves to her. Just as Christ did for us. Well, if you enjoyed that devotion, my name is Pastor Jason Maiden, and again, I'm the pastor at Ravenna Church of the Nazarene, and we have services every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, located here in Ravenna. Main Street is our address. You're welcome to join us in person, or you can catch us live on our Church Facebook page, or you can also catch us by visiting or checking out on the Dirt Past Sermon podcast. All right, let's continue on with our game picks here. The Sunday late game picks. Here's what I got for those. It's the Colts versus the Raiders. And we all know that I bleed Colts blue. I love the Colts inside and out. I cheer for the Colts no matter what. I pick them to win even when I shouldn't. I'm 78-57, 78 wins right and 57 wrong on the season in my game picks. And I'm sure most of those misses, a good chunk of those, are picking the Colts when I shouldn't have picked them. But the Colts this week, they're Jeff Saturday, with no NFL head coaching experience whatsoever, is making his debut for the Colts. He's been there for less than a week. He'll be there for about a full week by that point, by the time game time starts. He's learning the offense on the go. He had to install a new offensive coordinator. Picking the Colts to win, not because I'm picking them just because I'm a fan. I'm picking the Colts to win because I actually believe they're going to get the win. I think the Colts, with all the chatter, all the noise, they're going to come out and they're going to play on fire with their hair on fire. They're going to Jeff Saturday with his experience. He doesn't have necessarily the head coaching experience in the NFL. He did play in the NFL for years. He played with Peyton Manning. He was coached by Tony Dungy. He was surrounded by other great players around him. He's a leader from what he shares, and you can hear it by talking about it. You can hear the confidence in his press conference. I think that is going to translate to the team, and they're going to come out and they're going to find a way to get it done against a very, very bad, underperforming Raiders squad. I mean, the Raiders just got shut out by the Saints a couple weeks ago. Now they're coming up against the Colts defense, and the Colts defense has been playing solid all season long. Go look at it. They have yet to give up 300 yards passing to anyone. And now they're going up against Derek Carr and the Raiders, who are struggling. I think the Colts are going to get this win. And I'm not just picking it up because I'm a Colts fan. I'm picking it because I actually believe the Colts will win. All right, Cowboys versus the Packers. The Dallas Cowboys defense has 33 sacks on the season. That is insane. That's averaging just a little over 4 sacks per game. And the Packers have struggled in particular. I think they've been allowing 2 sacks per game, and now he's going up against Micah Parsons. He's going up against Micah Parsons with some trouble in the passing game. Right? He's not familiar with his receivers. Some of the receivers he is familiar with are out. Is struggling for the Packers. The defense has not lived up to who the defense is. I do think the Cowboys offense will underperform a little bit, but I think the Cowboys defense is going to wreak havoc on the Packers, so I'm picking the Cowboys in this one. This is a game where neither team is very good. And Matthew Stafford is questionable if he's not ruled out at this point with a concussion. Even with Matt Stafford, I like him even less with Matt Stafford in the lineup. Matt Stafford is a good quarterback, but for some reason, this offense is not flowing as well because OBJ's gone. But beside the point, if you follow this podcast, you'll know I am not a huge Kyler Murray fan. I don't like the Cardinals very much at all. I know is this. Sometimes when Jalen Ramsey of the Rams has to go up against these top-notch receivers, he tends to give up some big pass plays, and he's going up against DeAndre Hopkins, who is a beast. So I'm picking the Cardinals over the Rams in this one. All right, time for my team struggle. I've been sharing with you my struggle through this fantasy football season. I'm in a 12-team PPR league with some custom scoring, allowing points for completion, partial points for completion, partial points for carries. You get points for touches in this league. I'm in this league with church folks and friends. I am at 3-6. I'm on a 2-game winning streak. Woo! I know you're thinking this guy is doing a podcast on faith football and fantasy football, and his fantasy football team is that terrible. Hey, it happens, right? Sometimes you do things and it just doesn't work out. But I'm persevering nonetheless, and I've won 2 in a row, and I'm slowly calling myself back to where maybe just off run and make if I can get some other miracles to happen along the way. But this is where my team stands right now. At quarterback this week, I'm planning on sticking with Geno Smith. But although I am slightly tempted, this game is going to be in Germany, so it's going to be a long travel time to a foreign country. And I'll add that he's going up against a very tough Buccaneers defense. But what has me grounded at this point, go look at the average completion percentages for the Buccaneers. The percentage of completed passes the Buccaneers allowed, and then you look at Geno Smith, who's at 73% in the season. I like what I'm seeing. I feel like Geno Smith, even if the Seahawks lose, I feel like Geno Smith is able to pass the ball some. He may not get a lot down the field because he's not going to have the time to do so, but I do think he's going to complete enough passes to move the ball. Now, and also my other options, I can go against Derek. I can put in Derek Carr against the Colts, but again, the Colts have not allowed 300-yard passer this season. And as a matter of fact, the quarterback that was the closest to throwing for 300 yards against the Colts was Taylor Heinicke. So I'm not feeling good that Derek Carr is going to pull that off against the Colts. I think Derek Carr is going to get sacked. I think he's going to have some turnovers in this one. I feel much better with Geno Smith. My running back 1, I have Austin Eckler. Ekeler's one of those guys you go with no matter what, especially in a PPR league, because he's going to get touches in the passing game as well as running. I just hope he doesn't have another fumble like he did last week with the Falcons with the game on the line, where the ghost came in and punched the ball out of Graham's hand and saved the day. Hopefully that doesn't have to happen again. But anyway, I'm rolling with Austin Ekeler at RB1, although I am concerned that he's going against the 49ers' number 2 rush defense. All right, there's some concern there. Running back 2, Jamal Williams for the Lions. Going with him as well. Sticking with him. He's going against the 29th ranked Bears defense, at least against opposing running backs. I like that matchup. And Williams all season long. Again, in a league where you get partial points for carries and partial points for catches and stuff like that. He still gets touches, and he's been a touchdown machine, right? Now, when I say he's a touchdown machine, he has games where he gets zeros, but the game where he scores a touchdown, he usually scores 2. So hopefully that trend continues this week against the Bears. Receiver 1 going against Tyreek. I've got Tyreek Hill going in. He's up against the Browns. I like this matchup a lot, especially with him and Waddle on side. That's just a dangerous combo. And Tyreek Hill keeps proving again and again why he's a receiver. You leave in the lineup no matter who he's playing against, because good things will probably happen. Now, receiver 2, this is where my big concern is right now. And remember, I traded for Keenan Allen at the beginning of the season. I had my quarterbacks were Derek Carr and Russell Wilson. But because I was low on receiver, I traded Russell Wilson and then Chris Olave for Keenan Allen Fields, which Justin Fields is no longer on my roster, which I'm kind of kicking myself for right now, but it's okay. But I've had Keenan Allen. But Keenan Allen's been in and out all season long. He didn't play last week. He's questionable this week. He didn't practice yesterday. I'm not sure where he was at as far as practice goes today. The big question for 49ers, will he suit up? And so I kind of have to have a backup plan. Right now, my backup plan is Paris Campbell or Deontay Johnson. I could go with Deontay Johnson. The downside with that is he gets a lot of target catches and will he actually score a touchdown? Because all those targets and no touchdowns for Deontay Johnson. Will that change this week? I don't know. But, again, I'm hoping Allen will play because Mike Williams is out. That's only going to add his value to that offense. But should Keenan Allen not go, I probably will end up rolling with Deontay Johnson. I mean, I could go with Paris Campbell, but, man, that's such a gamble right now with Sam Ehlinger in the lineup, with all the changes going in the Colts offense right now. I would like to see some stability and some consistency before I commit to anything long-term as far as the Colts offense is concerned. All right. At tight end, I have Dalton Schultz for the Cowboys. Here's my dilemma. He's going against the Packers, who are ranked 3rd against opposing tight ends. My question, though, for the Packers, even though they have that 3rd against tight ends ranking, is who have they faced? Well, I mean, what tight end sees a lot of use in an offense in a normal week against the Packers. And if you go through the list of teams that they've played, you'll notice that is one glaring thing. The team that they seem to be facing, to me at least, from the outside looking, doesn't look like they're utilizing the tight end that much in their offenses. So the Packers 3rd against opposing tight ends because they've shut down opposing tight ends, or is it because they're facing teams that aren't regularly using tight ends? I know I'm digging deep and trying to justify leaving Dalton Schultz in this lineup, but that's where I'm at on the season so far. Here's my other. I have Evan Ingram on the bench, and Evan Ingram is going up against the Chiefs, and that's a very favorable matchup. The Chiefs' defense struggles, especially against the tight end. However, Evan Ingram has had favorable matchups repeatedly in this season, and he's not lived up each and every time. He hasn't played up to those. And my thing is, why would this one be any different? What would be different this go around? Maybe they play to try and keep up with the Chiefs some, but again, I am not confident in that. My other option is trying to look in free agency, but our free agency is a ghost town. So I'll Schultz, but we'll see what happens when the game time actually rolls around. At flex, I have James Conner. I am concerned because he's going against the Rams defense. It's a divisional matchup. It's going to probably be somewhat of a slugfest. But again, James Conner, if he plays, he's going to run the ball and he's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. So then he's going to get a lot of touches in the game. So that's important. And I would probably roll with James Conner. Defenses, and if you don't know what that means I play defenses based on the matchup. I believe that unless you can draft one of the top 5 defenses in the league, this is the better way to go. And this week, last week I went with the Colts because they're facing the Patriots, and that actually really worked out. Again, the Colts defense is not the problem. They've been turning the ball over, and they've been getting sacks all season long. Maybe not to the turn last year, but come on, last year was incredible. But that said, they're going against the Raiders. The Raiders have struggled on offense. Go back and look at what the Saints did to them a couple weeks ago. A similarity between the Colts defense and the Saints defense. So I believe the Colts defense will get some takeaways. I believe they'll get some turnovers. I believe they're going to hold the Raiders to a low score in this one. So I'm picking defense again 2 weeks in a row. Kicker, I have Myers from the Seahawks, even though my team is called Don't Be a Suck-Up, named after Ryan Suckup. But Suckup was, because the Buccaneers' offense was being terrible. He doesn't get you a lot of points. So, like I said, I'm at 3-6, but here's the good news. I'm in a league where the top 7 teams make the playoffs. So as long as you're not in that bottom 5, you're okay. Currently, I'm in the bottom. I'm in 9th place because of my 2-game winning streak. I need to be in 7th, at least. But the good news is this. My opponent this week is the 8th seed currently. So if I can beat them, hopefully I can get past. I can jump past him. And what's even better is that right now, currently in this league, there are 4 teams sitting at 4-5 and 3 teams sitting at 3-6, which I'm one of those. And our number 5 seed, predicted 5 seed of the playoffs, is one of the 4 and 5 teams. 6 and 7 still are very much in play in our league right now. I just need some help, and I also need to win. I can help myself by winning. Again, the downside is I still have to face the 3 top teams in my league before the season's over. However, let's get the W's where I know I can get the W's. And this week is I want to believe that I can get one. So, all right, primetime picks. The primetime games this week, the Chargers versus the 49ers. I am picking the 49ers. I love the if the coach's name's Shanahan, they're going to take any running back, even a very average running back, and they're going to make him look good in that offense. But now Kyle Shanahan has Christian McCaffrey in this offense. And what do you think Shanahan's going to do with a top-tier back like Christian McCaffrey, as long as McCaffrey stays healthy? What do you think he's going to do? It's going to be gangbusters. Jimmy G has been playing pretty decent the last couple of weeks. The Chargers, on the other hand, they have been struggling. A lot of it's due to injuries in the receiver group. Their defense has been struggling. And playing the 49ers is not going to be a key. Niners get the win in this one. Commanders versus the Eagles. And this one, I'm picking the Eagles. The Commanders are a mess. Although I will say this, I think they've looked better with Taylor Heineke at quarterback than they with Winston in the lineup. But I'm picking the Eagles in this one. All right, bye week Batmans. We're going to wrap it up with this section here. Bye week is that you shine the bat signal in the sky for, in hopes that they will come and save your lineup while your stud is on a bye week this week. And so I'm going to tell you, and who is the Batman that you can add that will save your week, but I'll also tell you who the Joker is that you need to avoid. And I might do it with some terrible puns along the way. All right, quarterback. Do not pick up any of the Titans quarterbacks this week. I'm not sure if it's going to be Tannehill start or Willis. It doesn't matter. They can be starting Joe Montana or any other quarterback at this point. I don't think it's going to matter because they're playing against the Broncos. So if you take a Titans quarterback, it's going to be like you're riding an OJ's Bronco with him. Don't do that. Do not pick this week. However, I do think Justin Fields could have a big game this week because he is playing the Lions. Remember, the Lions have given up an average of 400 total yards of offense to every offense they've played this year, just about. Justin Fields just went off against the Dolphins last week and rushed for 178 yards, and now he's playing the Lions. The Lions are terrible. And I just think he's going to have a big – yes, I know this is a division matchup, but I just think this is a matchup goal for Justin Fields. So if you may have him, but have him on the bench. He may be available still in the free agency. I don't know. Given how he played last week, there might have been somebody like, I'm going to take this because that's what I would do. Doesn't matter. If he's available or if you have him on your bench and you need to put somebody in, feel safe and confident to go with Justin Fields this week. All right, running back. Gainwell for the Eagles. Do not go with Gainwell. Because because your team will not gain well. It will not gain points. A giant L in the win-loss column. Gainwell had a pretty good point output last week, but what I encourage you to do is go look at his average per game on the season. Consistent. Do not go with it this week. Yes, I know I just picked the Eagles to win, but also I'm not, I would be, yes, the Commanders' defense really has been underperforming, but do you really want to gamble with it right now? I think running backs, I think you should look at. I think you could look at either of the three top backs for the Chiefs. They're really rotating between three guys. All three of them are getting catches in the passing game, and they're going against the Jaguars this week. If you're looking for just to bring someone in for a bye week, one of these backs would be worth the gamble. I think they're going to get some playing time. I think they're all going to get some yards. Obviously, one's going to, I would look at the stats between the three of them and go with one you think is the best. And which one tends to get more carries than the other one. But Chiefs running back, Jaguars. That receiver, do not pick up Drake London. He's a receiver for the Falcons. This season, the Falcons are flightless birds. They do not throwing the ball well. They're not winning because of the passing. They're winning because they found a way to run the ball. And I guess I do some play action now running the ball too. But still, Drake London, he had a good game last week. Again, same thing as Gainwell. He had a good stuff there for you to commit to this week. Although a receiver I do think you should look at is People Jones. He's going against the Dolphins. People Jones and the Browns. They're going to have to pay more. They're going to have to pay attention to Amari Cooper. I think the Dolphins are going to struggle to stop Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the rushing game, which that should open up passing lanes for Jacoby Brissett in this one. Yes, Jacoby Brissett's not going to throw for 300 or 400 yards, but if you're just looking for a bye week fill-in, People Jones presents you with a pretty high chance probability in this one. Tight end, I would not go with Otton from the Bucs because you oughtn't be checking in the injury report. Go look at the injury report. Cameron Brate is supposed to be back this week, supposedly, so that's going to cut into his usage. And Otton's not been consistent, even with him being out. So, again, I would stay away from him. However, I would look at any of the tight ends on the Raiders against the Colts. I know Waller is the starter, but I think he is questionable. Not played really well this season. But I would go and look up who his backup is even. I would consider one of those two guys a tight end on the Raiders going up against the Colts. Yes, I know I said the Colts defense have to give up yards to somebody, and the tight end tends to be the position that is a struggle for that defense. So I would look at the Raiders tight ends against the Colts. All right, do you have any faith or football questions for me? Please type it. Put those in the comments. Questions about faith, questions about football, put them in the comments. I would love to answer them for you. If it's a start-sit question, I will give you some advice. It's probably going to be terrible. You probably want to do the opposite thing, but I feel free. I will give my best opinion to you. Be sure to like the Go There Forth Facebook page, share the episode, and maybe even consider leaving me a review. Also, be sure to check out my other podcast called The Dirt Path. That's available on all the other podcasting apps too. It's my weekly sermon here from Rav Naz. Follow me on. I do daily devotional videos on there, and I will see you next time.